Mr. Franklin continues to contribute to the advancement of mathematics education in the region as a CXC examiner and a dedicated tutor. His career reflects a consistent commitment to innovation, excellence, and the sustainable development of Anguilla and the wider Caribbean. Mr. Larry Franklin. Our last, but not by any means least panelist, is Hazel Gums Lake. She's currently an attorney employed at the Estefan Chambers in Anguilla. She began her legal career as a prosecutor in Chicago and later served as an assistant attorney general in Washington, D.C. She holds a Juris Doctorate from Chicago Kent College of Law, a Master's of Public Policy from the George Washington University, and a dual Bachelor's of Arts degree in Economics and Political Science from Howard University. Before embarking on her legal career, Hazel worked at the United States Government Accountability Office in Washington, D.C., where she evaluated federal programs and advised Congress, which was an experience that strengthened her analytical and policy evaluation skills. Hazel is admitted to the bar in Maryland, Illinois, Washington, D.C., and the federal bar in Illinois. She recently completed the 6-month legal education certificate program at the Eugene Law School in the Bahamas and was called to the bar in Anguilla in July 2025 as a solicitor and barrister. In addition to her legal practice, Hazel serves as a legal advisor to the Anguilla Drug Advisory Council. She enjoys returning to her long-time hobby of playing the piano and is now teaching herself to play both violin and guitar when time permits. After 24 years in the United States, Hazel is delighted to be back home in Anguilla full-time and is committed to making a meaningful contribution to the island's legal and community development. Hazel Gums Lake. This evening's panel discussion will review a number of areas about the statistics and the areas that we have to delve into. Our first panelist, Ms. Delia Shields, will look at the role of statistics in society. And I think she is going to put a social slant on it. So without any further delay, I will allow Ms. Delia Shields to make her 15-minute presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I wish to accept the protocol already established. It is an honor to be here this evening. And I want to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to the Department of Statistics for organizing this important symposium and for inviting me to share in this conversation. before I go in, dive in deeply, I want to find out something. How many of you drank, just for question, how many people in this room do you think drank water before they came in today? Hold on. So I'll repeat. How many people in this room do you think drank water before they came in today? Raise your hand if you think it's less than 5. Okay, I got 1, I got 2, I got 3, I got 4, okay. So 4 persons, 4 people here say less than 5 drank water. More than 10, let me see the hands. More than 10. Oh, now we're going. Great. Thank you, you can put your hands down. Interesting. Now, how many of you actually did have water before you came? Okay, all right. Thank you very much, you're so good. See, even in this room of smart professionals and people from different walks of life, our guest was off. Off. That's what happens when decisions are made without data. They just are educated guesses dressed up in confidence because many of us lifted our hands confidently, but it was just an educated guess. And that's exactly why we're here today, to highlight how accurate, timely, and reliable data can transform guesswork into great governance, policy, and progress. Our theme, improving lives through statistics, strengthening and innovating together, could not be more relevant to the moment we are living in. Statistics are not simply numbers on a page. They are the mirror through which we see ourselves as a society and the compass that helps us to navigate where we must go. Tonight, I want to focus on an issue that has deep social implications for Anguilla: the lack of gender disaggregated educational data, and how this gap affects our ability to address male underachievement and social exclusion. Why statistics matters? Statistics are the foundation of informed decision-making. They help us see patterns, measure progress, and design policies that actually work. Without accurate data, our interventions tend to be reactive, based on assumptions, emotion, or anecdotal evidence. My family always did that, so that's why we're going to cut off the end of the bread, and we don't eat it. Is there a rationale behind it? Was data collected on it? It was just an anecdote that your grandmother and your great-grandmother passed down to you, and therefore less effective. For instance, countries that maintain strong educational and labor statistics are able to identify vulnerable groups, design targeted youth training programs, and reduce school dropouts. In those contexts, data transforms good intentions into measurable results. However, I want to pause here to share a personal reflection. During my time as an enumerator, I saw firsthand how challenging it can be to collect the data we depend on. I encountered distrust at times, outright uncooperativeness, closed doors, suspicious looks, and feelings of intrusiveness. Why you want to know how much I earn? Why you want to know how many people live in my house? Why you want to know if I have a fridge or I have a TV? You want the government to know my business. The attitudes make the work of statisticians much harder and reinforce the very data gaps we are trying to close. If we're to strengthen our data system, we must also strengthen public trust, because good data starts with good cooperation. The problem that I'm facing. Last year, out of the blue, I shouldn't say out of the blue. Last year, as a result of having heard so many times how many young men had been gunned down, I decided to take it upon myself to do something, to try something. My first thought was, I want to get involved in any initiative that is going on. And then I realized, I don't have the data. I could just be going off on what other people think. I had nowhere to find the data in terms of males, females, educational attainment, still looking for it. So I decided to stop just any young man on the street that I've been seeing that I might think was loitering and have a conversation. What is it that you want to do? Quite often, I don't know. That was the response. Nothing is here for me in Anguilla. I want to work in a hotel. Those were some of the responses. I decided to take it upon myself to try and put together some data, because what I found was many of the young men that I was speaking to either did not complete high school, neither have English or math, which is one of the most required subjects for any other progress, and they had no skills. Anguilla's own statistics has reported in the Anguilla Statistic Abstract paint a concerning picture. At the CXC level, boys consistently underperform in mathematics, English, and science compared to girls. Literacy and writing proficiency continue to lag behind. And the consequences of these early educational struggles follow our boys into adulthood. What is even more troubling is what we don't know. We have no comprehensive longitudinal data tracking the academic journey of boys from early childhood through secondary school and into the labor force. Without such data, we are navigating without a map, trying to solve a problem we cannot fully see, and a CCTV camera will not help. The social impact, the effect of this educational gap cripples through our society. At Zenada Haven, our juvenile rehabilitation facility, most residents are boys between the age 12 to 17. At Her Majesty's Prison, young adult males make up the overwhelming majority of offenders. Many of these young men leave school without certification, without trade skills, and without digital competencies that could help them secure employment. This creates a cycle of disadvantage. Low academic performance, limited job skills, unemployment, vulnerability to the crime and gangs. Breaking this cycle requires compassion, yes, but more importantly, it requires evidence. Data gaps in Anguilla. Despite the hard work of our statisticians, several critical gaps remain. We lack gender disaggregated data on school completion and dropout rates. There is no linkage between school performance, vocational certification, and labor market outcomes, nor do we track recidivisms in relation to education or skill training. Additionally, to this challenge is the fact that much of the data that does exist is not centralized. As a researcher, I have found it difficult to locate data that should ideally be housed within a single coordinating body, such as the Department of Statistics. Information is often sketchy across ministries and departments, making analysis time-consuming and incomplete. The recent labor force survey, the first in 26 years, is an encouraging step forward, but in true value will depend on how effectively we integrate gender, education, and youth indicators in that system. The case for intervention. As Ms. Laurie Ray spoke, a project that's upon my heart is for working with young men between the ages of 19 and 26. In light of these realities, I have been developing an initiative called Divine Alignment. It is a holistic program designed for boys ages 12 to 19 on to 26, combining academics and vocational training in fields such as information technology, automotive mechanics, gardening, and construction. But it goes further, emphasizing life skills, mentorship, and structured daily routines. Research supports the idea that discipline, consistency, and positive role models are essential for developing self-control and reducing antisocial behavior. The goal is not simply to educate, but to empower, to help our boys see themselves as capable contributors to their community and economy. Why statistics are central? To design and evaluate such initiatives, we must root them in reliable data. We need to know completion and dropout rates by gender, literacy and numeracy levels at key transition points, education to prison pipeline trends, vocational certification and employment outcomes. I have a call to action. If we are serious about improving lives through statistics, then we must all take responsibility. The Department of Statistics should continue to expand youth and education data collection with an emphasis on gender skills and social outcomes. Government and NGOs must use this data to design evidence-based interventions that meet real needs. Academia and international partners must support by assisting with research, design, capacity building, and longitudinal tracking of students and outcomes. Let me close with a simple but powerful reminder. What gets measured, what gets ignored, gets repeated. If we continue to overlook gender-specific educational data, we risk repeating the same cycles of underachievement and exclusion. But we invest in robust data systems and evidence-based programs, we can transform vulnerable into potential and exclusion into empowerment. This is not a matter of education. It is a matter of national security, social stability, and Anguilla's future. Thank you.
What a powerful start to our evening. Some of the themes that resonated with me: centralizing data. There is a need. We often try at the department to cut down on the amount of work persons need to do running from department to department to try and get information. Attitudes of individuals make our work harder. That resonates with a lot of us, doesn't it? As Delia said, what are you here for? Why are you coming? No one is at home. Those comments you get. Using the data once it is there is extremely critical. And finally, we need to invest in robust data systems. Put your hand together again for the presentation by Miss Shields. Our next presenter is Dr. Aidan Harrigan. And I think he is most apt to speak on the area strengthening statistical systems and collaboration. So it fits nicely following Ms. Shields' presentation, strengthening statistical systems and collaboration.
Thanks, Laurie, and good evening to everyone. Thanks for coming out. It's always, I'm glad for the opportunity, for the invitation to be part of this symposium. I go way back with statistics, yes, from the time I was, a long time. Yeah. In fact, I started off, my first job in government was, senior statistical officer. Although I did a lot of other stuff apart from that. But still, I consider it to be home. And so my mandate this evening is to speak on strengthening statistical systems and collaboration. I forgot my glasses, so if I stumble, forgive me. So I won't spend much time at all in terms of, say, how to build, but what I decided when I looked at the topic, to give an example of how this is important. And so you can then, draw the strands from there. And so I thought of a subject, and the subject I thought of was evidence, and that word again, evidence-based decision-making, immigration as a way to a viable population for Angola by 2035. And so I've been kind of delinquent. So I said, this is a perfect opportunity to test out ChatGPT. We won't get into details. I got some help, but I must say that I was impressed with what was generated. And so I'm using that tonight. Larry will be proud of me, I think. So it came up with a number of headings, and I quickly whipped through them. It says, number one, define the problem with current data, right? And so the problem in Angola is, how do we have, there's need for a viable population. So it says, very small, Angola is characterized by very small, slow-growing population. Angola's 2025 population is roughly 14.7 thousand. Yeah? With a mature age structure, so it gets down into some, detail, with a mature age structure and thin youth cohorts, which depresses future labor supply and tax base. So right away you begin to see the cross, different sectors that the issue encapsulates. Another point says, fertility is below replacement. Public data sets show Angola's net reproduction rate is below 1. That's dangerous. That's below replacement rate, which implies that natural increase without inward migration. So that goes back to the topic in terms of deficit, immigration as a way to viable population growth. So in other words, you're not relying on natural rate increase. In fact, if we do that, we'll be here a long time. Then it says, tourism-led economy needs workers. You know, and I think that is evident. And then said data gaps are being closed now, and it gave, and as the example, the labor force survey that was just spoken about. So each of those areas, it gave a reference in terms of where the information was received. So in terms of the tourism-led economy, the reference it pulled from was the ECCB database, and so on. And then, so the next, number 2, what viable population by 2035 should mean. And so it suggests that the target should be 18,000 to 20,000 residents, you know, with working age share of greater than 65%. And in terms of like a focus of like who to target, it suggests that you should look at health, education, skilled trades, hospitality management positions. And that is not actually not too far from reality. If you look at, for example, the folks who work in the health sector, you would find that a lot of them are from different CARICOM countries, be it, you know, Guyana, Jamaica, and so on. And the same is education. In fact, it's commonly said in the public service that if you know, the education and health sectors would shut down were it not for CARICOM citizens living here in Angola. And you can extrapolate that to include the police, for example, right? And another point that is made is that net migration, you know, offsets, yeah, the fact that, of course, people are born and people die, you know. So, but if that's not, if it's the rate of deaths is greater than births, then you're in a problem. Number 3, immigration is a central lever, but design it with data. So it comes back to this challenge of evidence-based decision making. Then it picks up on some current initiatives. For example, it says that Angola actually has a residency by investment scheme or pathway, if you want to call it that, which basically tries to make it easier for people who want to have like a second home here, spend significant time here, and it doesn't give them, like, you can't, for example, you still have to pay a alien land license and so on. But what it does is that it frees you up somewhat from you know, immigration control, right? Because you want to feel that if you invest in a home here in Angola, you don't have to put up with all the red tape, for example. So it suggests that we should build on that. Then it says areas to target skilled permits with fast lanes. And again, it breaks that down into, said, maybe people like teachers, people in the IT sector, hospitality, construction, and so on. And I must say that we were actually working under the previous administration on revising the immigration legislation to do just that. And so the idea is that once the government, this new administration, and we are supposed to brief the minister soon, gets to see, you know, what we were working on, that they will think that, oh, it makes sense, and, you know, continue that stream of work. Another area that is flagged is said employer-sponsored temporary to permanent work routes. And one of the things that the government has tried to do, and it's more now with the finance sector, but the idea is to roll it out, is to give, you know, say 3-year work permits, because, you know, it's hard for somebody to uproot their family where you really only guarantee 1 year, and every year you have to apply, right? Before you know it, 3 years is gone. So I think, you know, I think it's commonly admitted that that 3 years is a minimum, right? Um, Again, it speaks about building on the residency by investment. Um, Graduate retention, this is interesting. But what it suggests is that, and this goes both ways, because some people think that, when people go away to study, you really shouldn't really, you know, ask them to come back right away, that we should give them some time. We should give them some time to build and get, work experience. But what it was suggesting is that you have incentives that will attract folks to come back. Moving on, I know I only have 15 minutes. Area number 4, integration and capacity planning and built on evidence again. And this also gets to, something I've spoken about, the idea that these things cut across the different disciplines. So if you're going to be attracting, folks here, immigration, housing, you got to make sure that you have the proper housing, education, health. You got to make sure that, we have the school spaces. And I think given all the post-UMA construction, I think it's fair to say that we do have, the space in the primary schools and in the secondary school. Transport and utilities, we see that that's an area that Anguilla has been putting a lot of, again, post-UMA, we saw where, the airport, there's the new terminal building soon to open, but then beyond that is the question of the runway, to open up Anguilla. One area that, and Larry, this is Larry's section now, water. And water is a necessity. And we've had a challenge with water. I won't get into details because it's a bit depressing, right? But suffice to say that we need major improvements in that, which will require significant investment. Electricity is better, but the issue with electricity is affordability. And so the challenge for Anguilla is to tap into renewables, and Anglec, is making some strides at that. And then into modern day existence, broadband, where would we be without, the internet and digital, even COVID has shown us that we don't have to, certainly even here in Anguilla, for every meeting, we don't have to get up and drive, to the governor's office or drive somewhere. We can just have a Microsoft Teams meeting, but it requires, steady bandwidth and so on. Community integration, and that's a combination of all those. Then another area that speaks about is fiscal and economic guardrails. I just whip through this. It makes reference to central bank research and data and the IMF. It talks about things like wage protection. There's a minimum wage here in Anguilla now, and so on. In terms of fiscal scoring, to say that government needs to be, you can rely on government in terms of the ability to provide, resources. And this is not something to be sneezed at, so to speak. I remember we had a family vacation in Toronto. Ethan, my son, our son was probably about 7, 9, whatever. And, after, and he came back, he said, "Oh, Mommy, Daddy, I would love to move to Canada." We said, "Well, you went in the summer." But he was impressed with, the public transport, you would see the parks, people skateboarding, the fact that they made, provision. So, the government, if the government is taken from you, the government should be efficient in what it delivers, the quality services, and so on, cohesion. Number 6, measurement framework, evidence in, decisions out. You really do need to have, I know Laurie would probably remember, the Governor Venner from the central bank, he was one of the ones that, in fact, he made it statistics a key. Most speeches he gave, he actually spoke about the importance of statistics and databases. And he was one of those folks who talked about evidence-based, decision making. So how can we ingrain it? It suggests that there's need to have like an annual population outlook, so if it's the challenge is to get it by 2035 to show, how progress is, and it says that you can probably develop maybe a conservative, a base and high scenario in terms of getting to that point, and explain, have a constant communications, program and plan to communicate. And so ChatGPT is very organized. It says immediate next steps. They say exploit things like the 2025 labor survey to build on in terms of how you can operationalize this. They said stand up an interagency task force. Immigration, that's my area, labor, health, physical planning, finance, statistics. Says draft a points-based PR, program, and publish a dashboard. In other words, every so often, maybe 3 months, every quarter, you do a progress update and how you are getting with that, right? So part of tonight is feedback. We just don't want to be just speaking to you, but like, so I thought, as I said, when I was given this, I said, how can I maybe use a practical example to show the importance of building up statistical systems, right? And then being able to use the data, to be able to refine the data to help you to basically meet policy, objectives, and do it in a fun way, in a practical way. I must commend, again, this initiative. I think we need more of this, and perhaps what we need more of is, in university, they used to have what they call brown bag lunches, where you roll up in lunchtime and you bring your lunch in the brown bag, and there would be presentations by students. And because a lot of good stuff is generated in the public service and also the NGOs and the private sector, but it requires consumption, it requires dissemination, and I think we can be creative and how we go about that. So again, thank you, and I look forward to any questions that you may ask. And it's and just end by saying this issue of population is a very real issue for Anguilla. I mean, Laura, if she had time, would go through and say, over the last couple of censuses, right? We're basically stagnant in terms of our population. So it's a real challenge for Anguilla. Again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harrigan. Some of the areas that stood out. Immigration is a central key, but could anyone remember? Design it with data. The Anguilla Labor Market Survey, Dr. Harrigan, should provide some information. That is the forerunner to the labor force survey. It should provide some information on the skills and qualifications gaps. So I would send you that report in the morning.
Okay.
Population outlook, I think we're saying the same thing. Population projections. Our intention is to attempt to do some projections after we have cleaned the census data, and that would call for the ministries and the departments, economic, social, to come together and give us some scenarios so that we can do the high, middle, and low projections. Consumption versus dissemination. Which one comes first? We disseminate. is their consumption? Let's see. So next on our program in the panel discussion is Mr. Franklin. He will be looking at the area of AI and AI's use in the collection of data and the possible challenges and the possible areas that we can benefit from using AI.
Good evening, all again. I was asked to focus on innovation in statistics for social good and to focus on 4 main areas: new tools and technologies, AI, big data, cloud computing, innovative data sources, satellite data, mobile data, and IoT. How innovation is expanding, what statistics can achieve, and then finally, future trends and potential applications. Dr. Harrigan would have focused on the population difficulties for Anguilla. Technology in a way may make things more efficient and therefore will put less pressure on us in terms of the population size because we can do more with technology. It is an honor to participate in Anguilla Statistics Week 2025 under the theme Improving Lives Through Statistics, Strengthening and Innovating Together. This theme reflects a shared mission, using data to inform better governance and improving the daily lives of our citizens. In this session, I hope to focus on how we could explore innovation and new data sources and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, geographic information systems, and how they are transforming what statistics can achieve for our development. At the core of sound governance is statistics. They guide decisions in areas such as land management, water supply, environmental protection, and economic development. Anguilla's medium-term fiscal and economic plan emphasizes that evidence-based policy and accountability is key to how we should implement programs in the government. Recent advances in technology shows how digital transformation improves accuracy and responsiveness. For example, during Anguilla's 2022 census, geospatial technology modernized data collection. Our enumerators use mobile devices linked to a GIS dashboard that allowed supervisors to monitor progress in real time. This shift from a paper-based way of doing things to a digital increased efficiency, which reduced errors and allowed for faster reporting. This is a powerful example of statistics in action for better governance. Today's tools, not just in Anguilla, are redefining the possibilities of statistical work. Artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, and data science enables us to process and analyze information faster and more effectively. Among the most transformative innovations are large language models. I know most of us know them, but we do not associate them with LLMs. These are our chat GPTs and other GPTs. Generative AI and prompt engineering. And most of us do the prompt engineering every day when we prompt ChatGPT, Claude, or any of the other AI tools to give us answers to certain things like Dr. Harrigan did for his presentation. So LLMs are AI systems trained on a vast amounts of text, allowing them to understand and generate natural language, the responses they give to us. They can summarize reports, draft communications, and translate technical data in accessible insights. And our GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers, and the most famous of them, which most of us use every day, ChatGPT, are a specific class of these models, providing conversational interfaces for analysts and citizens alike. They are empowering the citizens to communicate with providers and government personnel in a different manner. Generative AI takes this further by creating entirely new content. It's creating new content based on what it has learned from those large language models. So it's actually generating new content. So they can provide things like visual summaries, infographics, or scenario simulations. And prompt engineering, most of us are good at, meanwhile, is the skill of giving precise, structured instructions to an AI system. If you want to be good at AI, you have to be good at generating prompts and telling the AI system what you want from it. A well-designed prompt ensures accurate, relevant output. Together, these technologies make complex data understandable, interactive, and actionable. A landmark example of technological innovation, and I mentioned it before, is Angular's modernization of its 2022 census, which was supported by Esri GIS platform. This initiative replaced traditional paper-based enumeration with a full digital-enabled process. Enumerators use tablets equipped with ArcGIS field maps, which automatically geofence data collection areas. Supervisors could view live dashboards through ArcGIS, online track enumerators' movement, and ensure data was collected only within designated zones. This real-time oversight improved efficiency, minimized duplication, and ensure accurate coverage of all households. Beyond the census, this system laid the foundation for continuous data integration across ministries supporting long-term planning and public service delivery. If we take that to another level, even with our vehicles when they are passing certain landmarks, even when we embed technology in our road networks to allow us to know whether the roads are flooded, whether the roads are deteriorating, that makes it less pressure on the engineers in my crew to be able to go out and inspect roads, because the roads are actually talking to them in real time, telling them what is my status, how many vehicles passed over this road over a particular time. In addition to GIS, other new data sources are revolutionizing how we understand national trends. Satellite data allows us to monitor environmental changes, coastal erosion, and land use in real time. Mobile data reveals patterns in movements, service access, and tourism flows. Internet of Things. Sensors capture continuous readings on weather, water, and energy use. When integrated with GIS, these sources create a comprehensive, multi-dimensional view of national development. They enhance responsiveness, enable faster interventions, and better targeted policies. It is how we are going to link our systems together. We have a number of systems, but how do we link them together to generate real-time data that makes interventions meaningful and progressive? So innovation is expanding what statistics can accomplish. Real-time dashboards help ministries monitor performance and outcomes. Predictive analytics will enable foresights, projecting economic or environmental scenarios. By linking GIS, our geographic information systems, with AI and traditional data systems, we're going to move from reactive reporting to proactive planning. This integrated approach supports the goal of the medium-term fiscal and economic plan by ensuring each investment is backed by measurable data and analysis. Ultimately, innovation transforms statistics into a living system, one that continuously informs, adapts, and improves governance. Looking ahead, the future of statistics is intelligent, it is automated, it is interactive, Large language modules and GPT-backed systems will soon allow public officers, including those in statistics, to query data in a more conversational manner, simply asking something like, what are the current tourism trends? And receiving visualized responses. Agentic AI systems will coordinate complex analysis autonomously, allowing humans, experts to focus on interpretation and decision-making. Generative AI, the one that creates the content or the one that's going to generate the new content, will automate the visual reporting, and while us, with our prompt engineering, will remain key to ensuring that AI outputs are accurate, ethical. As these systems evolve, our responsibility is to maintain transparency, privacy, and accountability, ensuring that innovation serves the public good. This year's theme for the Statistics Week reminds us that innovation in statistics requires collaboration. Government cannot advance data systems alone. Partnership with academia, private sector, and citizens are vital. Building capacity, improving digital literacy, and strengthening infrastructure ensures that statistical innovation benefits everyone. Above all, trust and transparency remains the foundation of effective data use. Together, we can continue improving lives through stronger, smarter statistics. In closing, I want to acknowledge the dedicated professionals of the Anguilla Statistics Department and all public officials who rely on their work. Every data set, every analysis contribute to the nation's growth and resilience. By strengthening our statistical systems, embracing innovation, and ensuring responsible governance, we are building a brighter, data-driven future for Anguilla. Together, we truly are improving lives through statistics, by strengthening and innovating together. And I have one confession to make. I got a phone call this morning to remind me that I had to make this presentation. I was on my way to St. Martin, and like Dr. Harrigan, I just put some prompts. I was trying to get a computer for my son. I'm helping him to build a gaming computer, so I had to go and collect that. Yes. But it's the power of ChatGPT, and it actually generated a video. Unfortunately, I don't have the PowerPoint projector. I actually generated a video putting the entire presentation together. So at some point in time, I'll share it with statistics. But thank you very much.
The power of technology this morning. So some of the themes that resonated: minimizing duplication, improving data quality, AI would help us, better targeted policies and linking systems to make data meaningful. I think that is critical. Our responsibility would be to maintain privacy, confidentiality, and transparency. And that leads us now to the last presentation, which looks at ethics, ethical considerations in this new dispensation as it relates to statistics.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm honored to be here at this symposium, and today I will focus on one of the most important but the least discussed aspects of statistics. Those are privacy, consent, and data protection, and how they affect you as citizens of Anguilla. So we often think of statistics as numbers, birth rates, employment figures, but behind every number is a person, you, me, all of us in Anguilla. Protecting people's information isn't just a courtesy. It is a legal duty under the Anguilla Statistics Act. It is also an ethical responsibility that underpins public trust. Ms. Shields mentioned that the attitudes of individuals make the department's work harder. And that leads to the first area I want to discuss, privacy. So why does privacy matter? I think living in Anguilla, we kind of all know why it matters, right? So privacy is the cornerstone of trust in statistics. When people believe that their personal information is safe, they will cooperate, therefore making the department's work easier. When that trust is broken, then the entire system suffers. So, Section 7.2 of the Statistics Act explicitly states that no report or publication may contain any particulars arranged so that anyone could identify any individual person or business unless that person gives prior consent, written. Well, what that means is that when you fill out the census or a government survey, your personal data, your age, your income, your occupation cannot be disclosed in a way that identifies you. It also means that when the department releases statistics, those numbers are aggregated and they're anonymized, which means it's anonymous. And why is that important? Well, because privacy builds participation. In small island communities like Anguilla, where everybody knows everybody, confidential is not just an abstract concept, it is personal. A person might hesitate to answer truthfully because they may think their neighbor might be able to trace that it was their information, right? So safeguarding privacy isn't about compliance only, it's about encouraging honesty, cooperation, and inclusiveness in the data collection. So the second area is informed consent, the right to know and the right to choose. Privacy and consent, they go hand in hand with each other. Under Section 16.1 of the Act, it says no individual return or answer can be published unless the individual or business has written consent. This is Anguilla's legal expression of informed consent. Persons must know what information is being collected and why it's being used and agree to that use. So in practice, this means that when data collectors come to your home for a visit, they should clearly explain the purpose of the survey. Respondents, people in the houses and homes, they should understand how their answers contribute to the national development. For example, better schools, planning for healthcare, that sort of thing. So the consent should be voluntary, not implied by silence. So if you say nothing, no, it should be voluntary, with no pressure. You cannot be forced. So informed consent transfers data collection from a one-way extraction where they're pulling it from you to like a mutual agreement and participation between the citizens and the state. It also reflects good governance. The government does not simply take information from you, it earns it through being transparent. Confidentiality and the oath of secrecy is the next area. The Statistics Act goes a step further. In Section 8, it requires every person employed under the Act to take an oath or affirmation of confidentiality, promising to faithfully and honestly fulfill their duties and not disclose any matter or thing learned in the course of their work. That oath is not symbolic at all. It is actually enforceable. It creates a moral and legal contract between the officer and the public. It also means that when enumerators, analysts, administrative staff, and anybody in the department handles your information, they are personally accountable for protecting it. It's not just a professional or institutional duty, but a personal one for each staff member. This oath is a part of a culture of confidentiality that we must continue to maintain because it makes the public comfortable sharing sensitive information, their income levels, their health status, household composition, and as Ms. Shields said, how much food you got in your fridge and how much TVs you have, right? So happens if your personal information is not kept? So what happens if your personal information is not kept confidential, and as we say, is all over the government road? Legal protections and penalties is the fourth area. When I say it is a personal responsibility, that is what we're talking about. The Act includes clear, the Act includes clear, okay. 1 minute. Oh, goodness. Okay, we will continue. The Act includes clear and serious penalties to enforce those protections. Section 17 of the Act states that any officer who unlawfully discloses information, uses it for personal gain, or knowingly compiles false statistics, commits an offense that is liable to imprisonment for up to 3 years or a fine of $20,000 or both. So this provision does two things. It deters misuse of information and reassures the public that their data is protected by law and not just by policy. So Section 16.3 defines publish broadly. It includes any form of communication, even orally, to any person not employed by the department. So that means both written and oral. It could be a casual conversation, a WhatsApp message, or any email leak to anyone who doesn't work in the office. Any of those will count as an unlawful disclosure. So in simple terms, if your business ends up on a government road, the people in the office are responsible for a penalty of $20,000 or up 3 years in prison or both. So these laws help to deter misuse and assure that the public that their data is safe and legally protected. So balancing public interest with personal privacy. Some people ask, well, if everything is confidential, then how can government use the data effectively, right? That is a fair question. So the Act strikes a balance perfectly. The department can collect and analyze data under Sections 2 and 6, but it publishes and shares the results and it removes all identifiers. So for example, if the report may show that there's unemployment in South Hill of 9%, but it can never reveal who in South Hill is unemployed. This balance ensures that the data continues to serve the public good without violating anybody's individual rights. So from an ethical perspective, that balance is the very definition of good governance, using collective information to improve our lives without compromising our individual identity. So modern challenges and the digital future when it comes to statistics. As Anguilla expands its digital footprint, e-government portals with electronic healthcare systems, digital health records, online surveys, and as Mr. Franklin mentioned, the modernization of the census, as well as the use of AI, the risk about privacy becomes much more complex. There's cybersecurity breaches, there's data sharing across ministries, and cloud-based storage. All these raise new questions. Questions such as, well, who has access to the data? How long is the data kept, and how is it encrypted? Luckily for us, our Statistics Act already provides a very strong foundation and protection. However, to stay ahead of these challenges, we may eventually need to strengthen it with modern data protection standards, such as clear retention policies, breach notification requirements, and independent oversight. These are all things that I'm certain are already on the minds of those at the helm of and working in the department. But even now, as it is, I must say that the Statistics Act does provide a very solid foundation for us in Anguilla. Also, the core principles that the department currently uses and will continue to use remain timeless, and those are to respect people's privacy, to seek informed consent and to use data responsibly, and that is to only use the data for things and public legitimate purposes. So that's how we make technology work for people and not against them. So in closing, privacy and consent are not obstacles to data collection. They are what make it possible. The Statistics Act reminds us that behind every statistic is a person. Like I said before, you, me, and everybody in Anguilla. And whose trust we must earn and protect. When we safeguard privacy, we build confidence. When we secure consent, we build partnership. When we hold up data protection, we build a better, more transparent Anguilla. And to our theme, and that's how we truly improve the lives of people through statistics. Thank you.
Interesting, excellent presentation. Some of the things that we deal with every day, and I'm sure every enumerator and interviewer in here can relate to what was just said, correct? Yes. Safeguarding privacy, we build consent, it was? Yes. Legal impressions of informed consent. And what stayed with me is privacy builds what? Anybody could remember?
Participation.
Participation. Privacy builds participation. Okay, so it is now your opportunity. I'll let you go first. I have some questions, but I'll let you participate first. To open the floor to questions. And I'm sure some people have questions. I see people talking, so I am sure those are questions they want to field to the panelists. So, anyone? No questions? Thank you, ma'am. I wish I had something to give you for being the first. Okay. Any of the panelists want to take that, or should I take it?
I would say, I think a big part of it is explaining to them, like I was saying, explaining to them, the process, why you need the data, how it's going to be helpful to Anguilla overall, and then also explain the privacy and confidentiality, letting them know, yes, you're giving me this information about your TVs and your fridge, but it's not going any further. And
Yeah.
I understand that, but that's the best that people can do, right? You can't force anybody to give information, so the least you can do is explain why and explain that the information will be held confidential.
Yeah. I often too say this way. A lot of the times persons would be trying to do research work. Students in Anguilla, different individuals, and we have no data. Let me use the example of TVs. I don't know if you recall the days where you had TVs that were not flat panel. I think our last census is the last time we will ask the question about those kind of TVs. Because I'm not an expert here, but that called for different technology, right? And if you're to make decisions, you're going to need that kind of data. Let's look at solar panels. How many of us have them? What is the penetration rate? If persons don't tell us, how then could government plan for these things? So, yes, there may be apprehension, but I think if persons explain the reasons behind the questions, a reasonable person would be willing to respond. Okay. All right. Hold your question. Don't. I want all the questions. I like this. Okay. The census collects data on residents. Irrespective of if you're born here or not, if you're residing here and you meet the definition of being here for 6 months or more, or plan to be here 6 months or more, we collect information in a census from you. Okay? So, yeah, but you could see why we still, you get me? But even though you may not have been born here, you may be on a work permit, if when the reference date we use for the census, you have been here for 6 months or more, or you intend to be here for 6 months or more, you become part of the population that we would want to survey. You look around lately? Okay.
People leaving?
Lots of people leaving, and then
You mentioned I don't know if it's a proposal or a suggestion that work permits not just be for a yearly basis,
Yeah.
but for the 3 years with
That's your question.
depending on the position we apply for. I look forward to seeing that implemented, so that would be a plus.
Yeah.
So that there's some guarantee on the people who have come to contribute to Angola to know, okay, I can wait, I can counted for at least 3 years.
Thank you.
So that is one. And then Mr. Franklin, I know we're into the AI. But isn't it really too much too fast for a lot of. Okay, I've gone to the banks, where you have the senior citizens say they come out of their house and say they want to socialize, and if everything is always on the phone, then they're confined to their house and they don't get to. So to what level do we just say we're doing too much to enforce the AI to take over?
Right, so there is also a social component of how you treat technology. You have to continue to provide services to persons who are not able to use the technology, like younger folks. So for the older folks, if they are more in tune to physically having a bank book or whatever and going in person to dealing with the tellers, you're going to continue to provide, or you should continue to provide that level of service. So for instance, in the US, some of the major, like Walmart and some of those companies, they were moving towards cashless.
Y'all can't hear?
Cashiers, not cashless, but non-cashier technology to allow persons to pay and pack their own goods. And they realized that some of the older folks were not coming to the stores as usual. So they reverted back to cashiers for some of their stores because they wanted them to continue. It was more of a social interaction for persons to actually go to a store, interact with the cashiers. They felt that, and I see with my mom, who goes to the bank at the supermarket. I could go for her, but she wants to go on her own. She wants to go and greet the cashiers. She wants to interact with them. It's a social outing for her, more than just going to the shop to pick up the goods.
go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I can understand what you're saying, because in England, for example, you have a lot of people who they never see anybody for days and years. You have had incidents where people die in their homes and they've been there for 4 years, 5 years, until maybe there's a gas leak and then they find them. So I can understand, but this is why you need to have your census. Then we'll know our aging population, the quantity of persons we have, the numbers of persons we have, and then that can inform social policies for the aged.
Okay, thank you very much for starting the ball. I hope you haven't forgotten.
Good evening, everybody. Avan Kati. It wasn't really a question, more of a response. I was taking the liberty in my head to be a panelist. But I think it was touched on by Mr. Franklin and your question, Desiree. It is how we use the tools available to us for our own development. Because I think AI might actually provide an opportunity to gather the information we need in a more, and I don't know, I'm not a programmer, but in a more private and confidential way. Because irrespective of what people say, there will be those persons who are going to be suspicious. As long as our population stays even under 20,000, you know, when anybody shows up as my enumerator, even if they swear to be personal and everything, I might know the person, and there might be some questions I'm not comfortable answering. And that's not me personally. I am a good citizen in that regard. I understand, because I struggled as a student to get material 30 years ago. So I always feel like we ought to share, but I respect that everybody mightn't do that. So in as much as AI might sort of dehumanize us, I think, and that's not the right word, but I even feel like when I put in something in ChatGPT, should I say, good morning, can you help me with this, please?
Oh, yes.
And I do, because I feel guilty. I know it doesn't care. But Alexa at home is now saying to me when I ask it if I have an update, it says, good evening, Avon. You know, so now I feel a little guilty that I didn't say good evening to the machine, right? So I'm saying all that to say, somewhere in all of this, you know, I think there may be an opportunity to get more information using AI tools that sort of depersonalize the getting of the information. And then you use AI in a way after that to, because, and I'm going on a long time, I'm sorry. But Mr. Franklin, you also spoke about collecting the information and then people analyzing it. I think we don't even need to do that anymore, because the AI will analyze for you. It will break it down. It will give you what you're asking. And even at this stage, and it is continuing to grow. So there are, I think, a lot of opportunities for AI allowing us to get more information and more user-friendly information so that we can do more with the information we get.
But Avan,
Thank you.
there's also a process of training the AI too, to get to that stage where it can master or be an efficient tool for us to use. So you have to go through that process. It doesn't get to that stage where it's going to be able to master what you want it to do. There's a training process for it too.
Just have a question for Mr. Franklin and Mrs. Gumslake, right? My question is this: a census is a very expensive venture, right? And we collect a lot of data in the census, right? We are faced with the challenge that we have to ensure that that data is private, right? I just mentioned the ethical issues that are relating to the data being exposed. Yet, that data is critical and can be used in other arenas. Why is it that, or perhaps the question should be worded like this: how do we deal with the challenges where that particular data could be used perhaps in a hospital to track a person's illnesses, or be used
in crime if that person commits crime. So there's a challenge between that data being captured, critical data, and yet we cannot allow it to go out into other areas. I remember you spoke, Mr. Franklin, about that data being used, being interconnected, that interconnectivity, right? That data, in a sense, is critical, and it forms like a baseline for other aspects and for crucial topics on economics, health, and so on. Yet, we as a statistical office, I used to work in the statistical office in Trinidad for many years. That same data could be used in the health sector. It can be used in crime. It can be used, yet still, how do you balance that? That ethical issue as well as that connectivity, where that same data could be used in other arenas to improve other sectors.
Well, I think that the main thing is kind of like what I was saying. It can be used in the aggregate, right? So, and that way it can be shared between departments. I don't know if it's currently being done, but it can be shared in the aggregate. So that would, solve the problem that you're talking about. Just once they're not zeroing into individuals and, very specific things about individual people, but in the aggregate, it definitely can be used between the departments. I don't know if it's being, yeah. Well, I understand what. Right. Well, the thing is, when you do a survey or the statistics, they do work in their department, it's usually for a very specific reason. It's not just to have information to share with everybody. So that's a part of it too. So you can't just share people information in all sorts of different arenas. And if the health sector needs a certain type of information, it may not be something that the statistics department is collecting, and they may be collected in a different way. You know what I'm saying? So it may not be useful to the hospital in that way. So unless it's some kind of joint venture between the departments, sometimes information is not shareable in the way that you're saying.
So, yeah, can I? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but statistics would have collected that data on a specific covenant to the person they're collecting that data from, not to share it, to keep it private.
I think, yeah, though that some jurisdictions like Estonia and people have modeled Estonia, now they've taken things to a different level, right? Where individuals, they have a digital passport. So they're small enough so that they figured they could. So there are things like the civil registry and all those things. They don't harass people anymore, right? They automatically update. If you go one area, they'd use it to populate across, so they're not harassing you. So, but of course, with that, I think they've addressed the data privacy and other issues. Yeah. So if we want to maybe learn more about overcoming those challenges, perhaps we can look at jurisdictions like Estonia.
And
yeah.
Yes. And if I could plug here, that approach in Estonia and the Dutch countries is more of an administrative base approach. But as with the AI tools, you need to have good definitions of what data you are collecting, clear guidelines of what data is being collected. A chassis number must be the correct chassis number, not because I couldn't get a 0 and I put an O. Those things must be clearly defined and clearly inputted into systems for us to link those systems. I think with the census data, the usefulness of it is to look at the data and see what other areas may need further investigation. And it is from that you then may trigger a survey in health, or health may determine, let's collect a set of administrative data. I know coming out of the 2011 census, what struck us was disability. We also had a poverty survey, there is no disability register in Anguilla. Added to that, you start to look at how you link disability in the event of a hazard in determining where your disabled persons are and how to deal with them. But as a statistics department, we couldn't give them, John Brown is disabled, these are the impairments he has. What that should lead the agency now to do is to set up a register and get consent from the persons on the register to use their data. So that's how I see it working. Other than that, you are going to have to ask persons individually, can I give out your data? And that's like chicken and egg. Yeah. So for now, we want to maintain trust, get persons into the habit of giving data because they know this is the way it would be used. Yes, a question. Another question.
I'd like to also add to that, it's been 3 years since we've had this innovative technology from steps from the center street. So I'm just asking, what exactly are you guys doing with this new information? Or if you are doing anything or any plans, can you share with us across your ministries if you're using it or intending to use it to promote the use of these statistical methods and how we do our government business?
That's not a chat GBT question, right?
Well,
use the example that both of you did and just try to use a little chat GPT. But it is true you need to be able to put the prompt in to get what you want out. And knowing a little backstory and information and being an enumerator, I could pump that into chat GPT. And I have more, but you can have separate conversations. Sometimes I bring my from the office sometime and chat.
okay, so I'm involved in 2 areas which actually generate a lot of data collection, but we're still struggling. So, for instance, labor is one of the things in the budget for next year is to get a labor market information system, and I mean you could the uses of a good labor market information system is, you know, it's so, the potential is huge in terms of, you know, targeted people looking at careers, you know, people looking to set up businesses, existing businesses and so on, right? One of the, I think the pet peeves Laura raised here from the immigration side is again, collecting information on people coming in, and for a variety of reasons, you have tourism. You know, tourism, we've reached the age where we have to, it has to be about data analytics. You know, you can't be spending your tourism marketing money and just like throwing it at a wall and hoping that it will stick, right? You have to know that people are coming from the US, they come from the East Coast, you know, what demographic, what you know, income group. Again, there's a lot. So, but then you have to be, you know, do it in a way with ease and not intrusive as such. So I was impressed. I went to Antigua last week. It was the first time I've been to Antigua since COVID. And so once I checked in, they said, oh, you know, you have to go online, the immigration system, right? So I went to the website and they had things just easy. You go, just basically fill in the, you know, the box, right? And then it had a scanner. You can scan your face. You can scan your passport. So, and then at the end, it gave me a QR code, right? So when I reached Antigua, it took me like 5 minutes. There was nobody else there, but still, once I got to the thing, 5 minutes. You go and you scan. Before you get to the thing, you scan, you put your thing there, and then once you got to the immigration officer, you scan it again, and the whole thing was like 5 minutes. So, and I could, and so if you then going, the part of me that would think about it, so let's say there were 15 different boxes that I ticked, you know, in terms of the form, but it didn't take me long. But that's the kind of information that people like statistics would then dissect and thing, and then tell the tourism people this is where you should market and so on. So I say that to say that we still have a long way to go, but what the Antigua and I think St. Kitts has a similar system. I know how expensive it is. Maybe the app is expensive, but it shows that, again, it's something that could be easily done and not intrusive. Yeah, so there's hope. Yeah.
So I would add that for government, from a system development perspective, we need to get to a point where we start to design our systems from the bottom up with all of the entities involved, who this data could be used by, how do we share this data. So we build our systems in a structured manner with certain fields and certain aspects of it that will allow us to easily share data across various departments. Being concerned about the ethical issues of whether you really can share the data, but if we design our systems from the bottom up to share data, we're going to be in a much better position to have a better way of integrating systems and services across government. There's no way that government should be seeing John Doe in lands and the same John Doe in planning as two different people. They should be seeing them as one person. No, we still, I'm being honest, we're still operating in silos where government departments want their own system under their control. They're not seeing the bigger picture, where they're seeing the integration and the importance of us being able to integrate our systems, because we're in fact harassing our clients. If they go to one department and they have to ask for a service and then go to another department and start all over because department one sees them as one person and one entity and department two sees them as a different person. So, yeah.
I would like to ask a question to them. Who are we going to go to rectify that? If you guys have somebody here, is it like the legislative thing? What are we doing? Because we need to pinpoint where exactly we need to go there, and then walk out. But we keep saying the same things over and over. We need to have some kind of accountability. Who is the person that's going to do it? Somebody just needs to do it. I'm just saying. If you don't take competition leader, let's not say, hey, I'm going to take it on. This is what we're doing. That's it. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do to get it done. But it's easier said than done. And I said, once again, if it was me, nobody want me to do that because that's exactly what we're doing. This is what we're doing. That's the end of it. Let's go. We work it up and we go along. But we know what needs to be done. We just need to get it done.
That's you just saying.
I think that there's actually a forum for that. There's something that is called a Statistics Advisory Board, a body that maybe doesn't work as we should be. But it's important to remember that in all of this, in terms of the ethics, like there should be democracy about it, right? So the Statistics Advisory Board is there so that we go about it in a democratic way, in that we realize the importance, but yet still do it in a way that doesn't trample on people's rights, be smart about it, and so on. So it is there, but I agree, maybe it's more for it to be given greater importance, right? So it's not that the mechanism is not there. It's just that we are not utilizing it as best as could be.
Yeah.
Right now, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, to generate your certificate of good standing.
Yes.
It's not intertwined. It starts by which body, and that's at the land revenue. So there is a framework, but who's going to say, hey, this particular body is going to do this, we're going to put it across government, and this is what we're doing. We need to regulate. I think that's the biggest thing. Somebody just needs to regulate. This is what we're doing. This is the policy. This is whatever framework we're using, and that's it. simply my question every single time.
Yes.
And to
Okay.
piggyback on that, if you're using AI and you have the certificate of good standing that I want for waterworks or to apply for a passport, what we said we're going to do less paper, but it seems to be more paper with all the additional rules. Why can't the same department in Land Revenue issue you that certificate of good standing, email it to the department, or have it on a platform that any department that I want to use that certificate of good standing for, that is only sometimes valid for a month depending, but maximum 3 months. Why do I have to go back to get another print or go to get another one issue? Shouldn't that what AI should be, a platform be used for, Mr. Franklin?
Okay.
AI could only work properly based on the availability of good data. If it's going to be working on poor, less quality data, it's going to give you nonsense results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Hargan, we will be visiting you about the labor market system.
Right,
Yes.
sure.
Okay. Because we have to get our platforms right.
Oh, that's the thunder?
Yeah. Yes, that's done.
I just wanted to add to that a little bit. With AI, AI is usually an open source thing. So if you put information into AI, it's accessible now to everybody. So you really don't want to put people's personal information into AI either, because then everybody can have access to it. So that's also something that I think government would have to be very careful. They would have to maybe go to a company to get them to create something that's just for the government to use. But as it is right now, anything that goes into AI is accessible to everybody. So don't put your birth certificate, don't put that stuff into AI, because then everybody can have access to it.
Actually, everything on the web is available in AI. Yeah. So, any more questions? Or are we going to wrap up this component? Yes, we're looking at time, but going forward, we need to be on time too. Okay? But I want to say we had a good discussion this afternoon, some very thought-provoking, stimulating discussions. I think usually when I pair these things, it's because we don't like to come out to discussions. But I think there's need for more discussion and rigor in the areas that we would have spoke about this afternoon. So let's once again thank our panelists as they return to their seats. Maybe we could have a part 2 someday, so Ms. Hughes could get in all her questions. And we are going to move into our second area, which is the award ceremony. Over the course of a year and during the years that we have been in existence, we heavily rely on field staff to assist us with a number of areas. So I'll turn back over to our host and we will get into that section of the program, and we'll try to be out of here in half an hour at most.
Thank you, Mrs. Franklin. Once again, thank you to the panelists. We'll call on the ASD representative to present the certificates of appreciation to the awardees. Sorry, Mr. Franklin, to present the certificates. This certificate is presented to Karine Lake. Yeah, she's there. camera. Chanel Finley. These certificates are presented in appreciation for assisting us in field work. Nomar Rodriguez. Followed by Douglas Flood. Kesha Mercurius. Yvette Rogers. She is coming. She's followed by Kimisha Richardson. And Thea Roach. Followed by Tavia Nelson Connor. Tavia. Lesroy Lake. Shadwa Richardson. Javia Richardson. Dahlia Shields. Followed by Lynette Carty. Kimon Charles. Ange Richardson. Tammy Gums. Very outspoken, Danicia Hughes. And Ann Gums, a representative by her daughter. Peshad Warren. And Gums. One more time. I'm going to call on Mr. Benjamin to assist me for the second awards.
For this award is the Address ACE Award for the field officer who provided the best physical address descriptions in line with the training and was able to clearly identify buildings and/or households. The ACE Address Award is presented to an individual who consistently delivers detailed, precise, and reliable information on building across locations. Their commitment to accuracy played a critical role in ensuring seamless navigation, whether validating address, data, or mapping building coordinates. This awardee worked to ensure that every location was found and the details. The expertise reduced errors, improved operations, and made a lasting impact on internal processes. The Address ACE Award is presented to Ms. Shadwa Richardson.
This second award, entitled the Biggest Hustler Award, awarded to the field officer who was assigned the most EDs and completed them in their entirety. This award is presented to the individual who showed unparalleled determination, drive, and work ethic by completing the highest number of enumeration districts. The recipient went the extra mile, overcoming challenges, pushing through long hours, and demonstrated exceptional perseverance to ensure that no district was left behind. The Biggest Hustler Award honors their relentless dedication to the task at hand, their ability to cover vast areas, and their commitment to achieving excellence across multiple EDs. The Biggest Hustler Award is presented to Ms. Tammy Gums.
The next award is the Household Trailblazer Award. The field officer with the largest number of households interviewed across multiple EDs. This award honors the outstanding achievement of the enumerator who demonstrated exceptional commitment to gathering insights by conducting the highest number of household interviews. the recipient went above and beyond to ensure that a broad spectrum of voices are represented. The effort reflected not only a dedication to collecting valuable data, but also a passion for understanding and addressing the needs of households on a large scale. The Household Trailblazer Award recognizes the immense effort, organization, and outreach involved in reaching a significant number of households, setting a new benchmark for success in the field. Presented to Ms. Shadwa Richardson. That's it. Ms. Shadwa Richardson would have completed 346 households.
This fourth award, the People's Champion Award, presented to the field officer with the largest number of individuals interviewed. This award honors the individual who went above and beyond to connect with the greatest number of individuals, amplifying their voices and ensuring their data are represented. With a relentless commitment to gathering insights, the recipient engaged a wide cross-section of persons. The People's Champion Award is presented to Mr. Kimon Charles. Mr. Kimon Charles would have interviewed 916 individuals.
The next award is the Mileage Master Award. The field officer who was assigned and completed the largest ED in terms of total area. This award recognizes the exceptional dedication and hard work of the field officer who was assigned the largest ED and successfully completed it. Covering a mass expansive area requires remarkable organization, persistence, and attention to detail. The recipient of this award demonstrated resourcefulness, navigating challenging terrains, ensured accurate data collection, and managed their time effectively to complete the task. The Mileage Master Award is presented to Mrs. Tavia Nelson Connor.
The ED Lightning Award, presented to the first field officer to complete an ED. Presented to the first field officer to successfully complete an enumeration district ED, demonstrating efficiency, initiative, and dedication to excellence in the field. Presented to Mr. Ange Richardson. Successfully completed his ED on 13 February 2023.
So we had a few other awards, but the person not present, so I'm just going to read out those awards. The Household Coverage Champion Award, the field officer who completed the most households within a single enumeration district. Awarded to the field officer who completed the most households within an enumeration district, demonstrating exceptional diligence, accuracy, and perseverance in covering a highly complex and challenging area. The award would have been presented to Ms. Shamela Duke. That was ED 37, where she completed 193 households and 516 individuals. Another award we had was the Dual Role Excellence Award. That would have been for the supervisor who took on the most enumeration work in addition to their supervisory duties. Awarded to the supervisor who went above and beyond by taking on the highest number of enumerator work while still fulfilling their supervisory responsibilities, showing exceptional commitment, leadership, and dedication to the team's success. That would have been presented to Ms. Donette Brian Lico. The Distinguished Senior Award. The most senior field officer who was able to complete duties as a supervisor and enumerator. Presented to the most senior field officer who not only embraced their role, but also successfully carried out the demanding duties of a supervisor and enumerator, exemplifying dedication, versatility, and leadership in the field. Presented to Mrs. Clavis Carter Gomes. And last but by no means least, the Pillar of Data Collection Award. This award recognizes an individual whose long-standing commitment to excellence in data collection has set a standard for consistency, reliability, and integrity. Over many years of dedicated service, they have been a steady and dependable force, ensuring data is gathered with precision and care, time and time again. Their longevity as an interviewer not only reflects deep expertise, but also a profound commitment to the mission and values of the Anguilla Statistics Department. As a cornerstone of our data efforts, they truly embodied what it means to be a pillar in every sense of the word. This individual has worked on almost all of our field surveys, the Anguilla Population Housing Census in 2011 and in 2022, the Visitor Exit Survey from 2017 to present, the Pillar of Data Collection Award presented to Ms. Dion Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. That concludes the awards and presentations. We'll ask all recipients if you can please come to the front so that we can take a group photo, and panelists as well. So all recipients of awards, along with the panelists, if you can please come to the front so that we can take a group photo. And staff of the ASD.
So that brings us to the end of our symposium and award ceremony. Before you leave, there's refreshment provided at the back. Once again, thank you everybody for coming out. And have a safe journey home.